the balance 2 questions. These are newly developed questions without any free scene given. In the exam hole, these questions are given. So, at the beginning we identify that there are 2 questions. There are 2 questions. See this unseen part. Question number 1. This should be allocated 25 marks. We will see how many marks allocated. Yes, 25 marks. Then question number 2. That should be also allocated 25 marks. Right. So, this is also based on scenario given. I can say this is a mini case study compared with the 50 mark question we discussed. Shall we firstly go through the scenario given? After that, we will look at about the questions. Question number 1. Plastic is a manufacturer of plastic lunch boxes, water bottles and other plastic household equipment. Even though the company is maintaining a significant share in the domestic market, it face severe competition from both local plastic product manufacturers and importers of plastic product in China. Now, look at the initial introductions given. Adapt for Plastic is a manufacturer of plastic lunch boxes, water bottles and other plastic household equipment. So, what they manufacture? Plastic lunch boxes, water bottles and other plastic household equipment. Even though the company is maintaining a significant share in the domestic market, it faces severe competition from both local plastic product manufacturers and imports of plastic product in China. So, what about their market share in domestic market? They have a significant share. That means they have a high percentage in the market, right. It faces severe competition from both local plastic product manufacturers and imports of plastic product in China. They face huge competition from both local plastic product manufacturers and importers of plastic product in China. During the last couple of years, the top management believe that it is very difficult to differentiate the current product range of the company based on their quality. Some information are given now. During the last couple of years, the top management believe that it is very difficult to differentiate the current product range of the company based on their quality. So, that means Porter's second strategy, differentiation can't be applied here, right. And therefore, it was better to operate in a perfect red ocean with cutthroat competition. Now, you know what is the red oceans. Red ocean market, we are competing in the existing marketplace, right, with the competitors. Based on a very cost conscious culture, they promoted all the measures taken by employees to reduce the cost of manufacturing. So, what type of culture available within these organizations? Very cost conscious culture. That means they are more focusing on the cost of the products, and they want to reduce the costs. That means Porter's cost reduction strategy is more feasible in this organization. As a result, the company has paid very little attention to the health and safety condition of operational employees. They have not given much attention to the health and safety condition of operational employees. The company currently employs over 200 employees, most of them operate on the production floors. We have not thought about the health and safety conditions, and at the moment there are 200 employees in the production flow. At the end of last year, a large institutional non-governmental organization named Employees First, which focused on employee right, which is the factory premises. Now, what has happened? The end of the last year, a large international non-governmental organization named Employees First, which focused on employee right, which is the factory premises. After their visits, they met with the management of Adopt Plastic and informed the management that health and safety practices adopted by the company are not at par with international standard. They have advised the management to change practices to improve health and safety of employee. That give some information about the health and safety practices applied by the organization. This organization has stated that the practice applied by the company is not acceptable, and they ask this organization to improve the health and safety of employees. The finding of Employees First were also highlighted on various social media sites, which resulted in some negative reaction from the public. The finding of Employees First were also highlighted on various social media sites, which resulted in some negative reaction from the publics. Now, what has happened? Those were published in many social media that may have created some negative impact about the company. Recently, the ownership of the company was acquired by a large group of companies in the country. Now, what has happened? The company was acquired by a large group of companies in the country, and new CEO was appointed. He changed the present management philosophy and initiate green practices in the company based on emerging market opportunities. Accordingly, he suggested starting biodegradable plastic producing plant while adhering to the world recognized environmental policies. In new business, the company has planned to purchase raw material from local sources and position the product as premium quality and highly environment friendly. So, what type of product now they are trying to offer? Premium quality and highly environment friendly. Raw material are planned to be purchased from local recycling plant, and production processes will be done in a separate factory. Raw material are planned to be purchased from local recycling plant, and production processes will be done in a separate factory. So, raw material will be purchased from local recycling plant, and production process will be done in a separate factory. Sales and marketing activities will be done by the existing sales team. Even though recycling plant agreed to provide raw material without any restrictions, initially the company will have to bear huge investment capital for establishing a new plant. At the moment, Mr. Jagat Panandu accepted the invitations to be the head of new business operations, and he has a special master degree in recycling and producing biodegradable polythene products. Further, he has hand-on experience in producing biodegradable product in several international plastic manufacturing organizations. In addition to that, following the present government policy on environment-friendly manufacturing plant, the Industrial Development Board has given its consultant free of charge, considering the contribution of the new business in the country. Now, we have a new head of the new business operations. His name is Jagat Panandu, saying a master's in recycling and producing biodegradable polythene products. At the same time, he is having some experience in several international plastic manufacturing organizations. So, at the moment, this present government have a policy on environment friendly manufacturing plant, and Industrial Development Board has given his consultant free of charge, considering the contribution of the new business in the country. So, this is not a large case study compared with the early one, this very small one. How many pages this last or exceed, it is more than one page. If you summarize the information we have read up to now, is Adru is a manufacturer of plastic lunch boxes, then water bottles and other plastic household equipment, and they have significant share in the market and they face severe competition from both local product manufacturers and the import of plastic product in China. Now top management believe it's difficult to compete with the quality, best thing is to compete with the cost. Then what happened, one of the international organization NGO visit the factory and they have highlighted that safety conditions are not enough, safety and health conditions are not enough for the employees and to increase that. Then what has happened, this company ownership has been changed now and the present management want to apply more green practices. They want to offer some goods which comply with premium quality and highly environment friendly, right. And we have a new CEO. Now we look at about the question raised by the examiner. So part 1, look at the part 1, assess the interest and power of the main stakeholders in the given scenario based on the Mendelov matrix and suggest how Adapro should respond to the concern of these stakeholders. Part 1, test your knowledge on Mendelov matrix. Mendelov matrix was discussed under ethics and stakeholders topics, CSR topic, chapter number 4 we discussed this. Then part 2, outline the internal triggers for initiating new strategic direction to the companies. That test your knowledge on this internal triggers. We discussed about 2 type of triggers if you remember, internal triggers and the external triggers, that was in the chapter number 1. Then question number 3, applying the WIN framework, evaluate each of the competencies mentioned in the scenario to determine whether they would help Adapro Plastic to achieve a competitive advantage for new business. Applying the WIN framework, evaluate each of the competencies mentioned in the scenario to determine whether they would help Adapro Plastic to achieve a competitive advantage for new business. This test your knowledge on resource and competencies, that was discussed under the internal environment, chapter number 3. Now see, chapter 1 was cover, chapter 3 cover, chapter 4 cover. Then question number 4, part 4, select 2 support activities in the Fortis value chain and justify how these activities could help Adapro Plastic to improve the profitability of the new business. It tests your knowledge on the value chain, that was also covered in the chapter number 3, internal analysis. Then part 5, analyze the competitiveness of the biodegradable product plastic industry in Sri Lanka by using Fortis 5 forces model with the purpose of developing strategies for the new business of Adapro Plastic. Analyze the competitiveness of the biodegradable plastic industry in Sri Lanka by using Fortis 5 forces model with the purpose of developing strategies for the new business of Adapro Plastic. This tests your knowledge on external environment analysis, under that industry analysis 5 forces model, that was discussed in the chapter number 2. See, chapter number 1 cover, 2 cover, 3 cover, 4 cover, right. First 4 chapters have been covered from the question number 1. Now we will go for detailed discussion of the questions. So we will discuss the part 1 first. Look at the part 1. Assess the interest and power of the main stakeholders in the given scenario based on Mendelov metrics and suggests how adapter should respond to the concern of these stakeholders. So, question tests your knowledge on Mendelov metrics. So, we discuss Mendelov metrics under the stakeholder analysis. First of all, we look at about theory part. So, we will try to remind the theory part relating to these questions. Theory part. So, we discuss about the stakeholder mapping. If you remember what we have discussed under the stakeholder mapping, this under the stakeholder mapping we try to group stakeholders based on the true criteria, the level of interest and the power. You know who is a stakeholder? Any party who is having an interest about the business activities is identified as a stakeholder. So, under the stakeholder mapping, we try to understand the stakeholders based on their interest on the organizational activities and the power they have. Actually, look at about the Mendelov stakeholder mapping, there are two things we try to do. First one is to analyze stakeholders and identify them as category A, B, C, O, D. Or in other words, we try to group stakeholders into these four categories. Second thing is we try to identify the appropriate strategies to deal with each stakeholder parties. If you look at about this Mendelov matrix, 4 strategies have been suggested: minimum effort, then keep informed, keep satisfied, and other one is the acceptable. Right, 4 strategies have been suggested. Right, this question is based on only the first part. In there, what you have to do is you have to categorize the stakeholders given in the scenario based on the this Mendelov's matrix. First of all, you have to identify who are the stakeholders given in the scenario. Then you have to put them into the matrix, and you have to identify them as category A, B, C, O, D. So, we will look at our theory part a little bit more. Now, here we have identified 2 scenario exist under each variable. For example, level of interest can be low or high. Similarly, power can be low or high. There may be some stakeholders who have low level of interest and low level of power. We categorize such stakeholders as category A. Then who is category B? Under category B, what happened is the power remain as low, but interest has been increased. Such group we identify as category B here. Then category C, their level of interest is low, but their power is high. Then category D, their level of interest is high, at the same time their power is also high. Such players normally we call it as key players. They are the most important parties from the organizational point of view. Then we have to go through the facts given and we want to identify different stakeholders available first, then we will try to put them into this particular matrix. We look at about the question information. What are the different stakeholders we can identify? So, definitely there is a NGO called employee first, that is one. So, it has mentioned there are 200 employees, that may be another group. There may be some customers, so that may be another example, customers. There may be some regulatory authorities. At the last para it was mentioned like Industry Development Board, not an Industry Development Board, there may be some other regulatories like Labour Ministry. So, we have to comply to their regulations, even the owners, shareholders, another example. So, within the given scenario, we can identify few main stakeholder groups. I just try to identify few. One is employees. What about the employee? In this scenario, there are 200 employees, over 200 employees. If you try to put them into the matrix we have discussed, where we can put these employees. So, normally employees can be put under category B, or employee can be put under category V. So, if you look at the individual employee, their power is very low. There are more than 200 employees, each one is having a very low power. But there is a one way of increasing the power. What is the way? They can form a union and can increase the power. If they form a union, then what happens? They will become a key player. But under normal circumstances, if you take individual employee, they can be categorized under the category B. Then, so if you look at about the facts given, there is a NGO, employees first. What about them? What are the information given related to them? At the end of the last year, large international non-government organization named employee first. A large, not a small one, big one, international. International means they operate in different countries. So, what about their power? Is it high or low? Should be high. It's a large one, international one, high. What about their interest? One can argue their interest is low in relation to this organization, but they have visited no. That means at this scenario, their interest will be high on these organizations. Therefore, in this analysis, we can categorize them under category D. Then customers, what about the customers? So, customers, what are the information we have regarding the customers? Do we have information on customers? So, they have a significant share in the domestic market, but little information on the customers, no. But we can assume customers have interested about this product. Definitely, they interested about the company products, no. Interest is high. We assume their power is high since there are so many players in the industry. That has been stated, no. At the beginning it was mentioned, I will check that information. Yes, they have mentioned that even though the company is maintaining a significant share in the domestic market, it faces severe competition from both local plastic manufacturers and importers of plastic product in China. That means from the customer point of view, they have so many options. Therefore, we can assume their power is also high. So, we will see category D. Later we will check with the examiners analysis also. What about regulation authorities such as such as Industrial Development Board. What do you think about them? So, their power is always high, but what about their interest? I do not think their interest is high here, because these are small organizations and there are thousands of organizations they have to monitor. Therefore, at this scenario I think their interest is low. Then we can consider under the category C. Then right, we analyze a few, then we look at about the examiner's answer with the examiner answer match with our analysis. So, what examiner has done first? Stakeholder mapping is a method of understanding interest and power of different stakeholders and indicating how management should respond to the concern of each stakeholder group. So, what he has done first? He has started with introduction on the theory part. So, you should do the same. So, introduce what is stakeholder mapping, right. Then he draw the matrix, then he try to put these stakeholders into the matrix. So, stakeholder mapping is used to assess the significance of stakeholder group. This is in turn has implication for the management of the organizations. Stakeholders of agroplastic can be assessed in the following categories. Now, stakeholders in segment D, key players, who are the parties he has identified, NGO, coal employees first, we also identify them under the segment D. Why we identify them as segment D? The reason was it's a large international one, no? Therefore, their power is high, interest also high. Since they have visited this organization, we can assume that they have some interest on these organizations. Right, we look at about what examiners say. Non-governmental organization name employees first, they have a high interest and a high level of power. They have high interest and high level of power. Adaptable Plastic should consider, they are advised to improve the work environment in the manufacturing premises. If not, it might create a very bad reputation for the company within the general public. Therefore, the management of Adaptable Plastic should very carefully consider the view of employees when making decisions. Yes, you have to consider about their viewpoint, right. Whatever the things demanded by the NGO employees should be considered in decision making, because they are come under the key players. Then customers we also identify as key players. Customers are the key players in any organizations. They have high power as well as high interest over the organization. Customers of Adaptable Plastic will get to know that company is not providing the required health and safety measures for its employee on the production floor due to the bad publicity on social media site regarding the current issues of Adaptable Plastic. As a result, they will be reluctant to buy Adaptable products. Therefore, the management of Adaptable Plastic should consider the view of customers very carefully when making decisions. Who are the parties we identify under section C? Like regulatory authorities. No, in this scenario, we identify one organization, that is Industrial Development Board. Not only them, there may be some other regulatory bodies also. They can be categorized under the C. Let's see what the examiners say. Stakeholders in segment C. Regulatory authorities, the Labour Department, Industrial Development Board, they have high power but a low level of interest. So, we identify the same. They can influence the organization by taking legal actions against the company for not meeting the adequate health and safety measures for the employees. Stakeholders in this segment must be treated with care. You have to carefully treat this segment. The Adaptable Plastic should keep them satisfied by complying with the required standard and ensure that the regulations of the country are met. Should also change its approach if regulations are changed in order to prevent these stakeholders from becoming interested. Must be treated with care. These are key points. And kept satisfied. That should be the strategy, no appropriate strategy. See this kept satisfied, keep satisfied. That should be the appropriate strategy. Then B, we identify employees under B. They have high interest but low power. How if the employee get together and form a union, they could have high power. I mentioned the same point, no. Therefore, employees of adapter should be kept informed about the activities of the company. That should be the appropriate strategy. Kept informed. Right. So, actually this question tests both actually. It's clearly stated actually. Initially, I thought only identification of the stakeholders and put them into the metrics, but second part clearly say no. See, this assess the interest and power of the main stakeholder in the given scenario based on Mendelov metrics and suggests how adapter should respond to the concern of these stakeholders. Both part has been tested. Identification of the stakeholders, then put them into the right place. Then the second thing is to identify the appropriate strategy. So, if you look at about the answer, it's clear. Right, in the examiner's answer, see he first put into the metrics these players, then identify the strategy. Right. The customers, for example, it say that should consider their views, that should be the strategy. Then segment C, what it do is ensure that regulation of the countries are met. So, then the fourth one clearly say you have to inform the employees. So, both have been tested in the questions. Then part 2 of the questions outline the internal triggers for initiating the new strategic direction to the company. Internal triggers for initiating new strategic direction to the company. So, what are the theory part? We will look at about the theory part first. So, what is trigger? This was discussed in the chapter number 1. Look at trigger. Trigger or triggering event is something that brings about the realization of the need for actions and can either be an internal or perhaps more commonly an external event. So, trigger or triggering event is something that bring about the realization of the need for action and can either be internal or perhaps more commonly an external event. This is something that bring about the realization of the need for actions. It can be an internal one or external one. Right. So, what are the example? Theory part, external, what are the example? It can be direct or integral triggers. Direct mean the triggers come from the micro environment. Indirect mean triggers come from the macro environment like phase factors. The question test on the internal triggers. What is internal triggers? The internal triggers for change within the organization could span any functional area of operation or level of control from strategic to operations. This is something happen within the organization. Example, change of philosophy, new organized ownership, new CEO. Do we have such information in the case? We look at whether we have such information in the case, matching those example. Yes, there are some few events. For example, we look at this question. Recently, the ownership of the company was acquired by a large group of companies in the country, and new CEO was appointed. Triggering event: the ownership has been changed. Then, at the same time, new CEO was appointed. If you look at about the theory part, clear, no? That one in the theory part. So, the new ownership, new CEO, both are there in the case itself. Is there any information on this the second one, new initiative or change in management style? So, do we have some information on management style on the case also? We will check. Yes, see, he changed the person management philosophy and initiated green practices into the company. So, this guy has changed person management philosophy and initiated green practices. So, that is also a triggering event. Then reorganizations. division restructuring, a decision to start a process of cost reductions, perhaps because of a realization of a decline in profitability. Do we have some information regarding that? We will check in the case. Yes, company has planned to purchase raw material from local sources and position product as premium quality and highly environment friendly. Yes, and a trigger event is this NGO. They came to the organization and they suggest some improvement. There is a triggering event. You have to change how the current things are done. You have to improve this health and safety of the employees. Then another triggering event is this bad media publish, especially in the social media about company practices. Those are some of the things that drive the change within the organization. No? Those are the triggering events. So, we found few things, we will check what the examiner say on this. When considering what initiate a new strategy, we often need to consider trigger or triggering event. There are two types of triggering events such as external and internal. The internal triggers for change within the organization could span any functional area of operation or level of control from strategic to operations. Internal triggers for change within the organization. So, I think so I identify this this visit of employee first. I think it should not be internal one, no external one, no, should not take that one. But what we look at about some other internal stuffs, the internal triggers for change within the organization could span any functional areas of operation or level of control from strategic to operational. According to given scenario, following internal triggering event can be outlined. So, new ownerships, we found that information. Ownership of the company was acquired by a group of companies in the country. New CEO, yes, the new CEO was appointed by the new BOD. Change of philosophy, the new CEO changed the person management philosophy, it was given. New initiative or change in the management style, the new CEO initiate green practices. Now, look at this based on the theory. New ownership, new CEO, change of philosophy, change its management style, based on the theory part. Then new opportunity be identified by staff or management. New opportunity be identified by staff and management. Yes, green practices, no. Initiate green practice into company based on emerging marketing, emerging market opportunities. Those are the example for the internal triggering events. Right. Then we will move to the part 3. Apply in the WIN framework, evaluate each of the competencies mentioned in the scenario, determine whether they would help Adaptoplastic to achieve a competitive advantage for new business. This is based on resource and competence analysis you have learned under the internal analysis. So, theory part, do you remember the theory part? It based on this. So, what are the qualities of strategic capabilities? We identify 4 letters on that. We call it as WIN framework. Normally, strategic capabilities should meet these 4 criteria. So, value to customers, clarity, inimitability, non-substitutability. So, value to customers, organization ability to satisfy its customers needs, organization ability to satisfy its customers needs, that is value to customers, whatever the resources or competence you should have should help to meet the customer need. The second one is rarity, it should be rare, rarity, if a resource is not rare, competitors can obtain it too. Then inimitability, robust and impossible to imitate or copy easily, it should be very difficult to copy. Then non-substitutability, something competitors do not need because they can achieve same objective using different resources. This is the theory part. Now, we want to apply this scenario into we want to apply this theory into the scenario given, right. So, we look at about the examiner's answer on this. So, what examiner has done, first of all he talk about the theory part, unique resources and core competencies can jointly be referred to as strategic capabilities. Right, if you remember the theory part you have learned on this. So, I will remind you theory part first. If you remember the capabilities of the organizations, capabilities can be divided into two main group. What are the two main group? Resources and competences, resources and competences. Then we divide resources into two group, threshold resources and unique resources. Then competencies were also divided into two, threshold competences then other one is core competences. Remember this threshold resources, what is threshold resources? These threshold resources are helpful to meet minimum customer requirement. These are helpful to meet minimum customer requirement. And these are very easy to imitate or obtain. But unique resources, if you look at about the unique resources, these are very difficult or impossible to obtain. Very difficult to imitate or impossible to obtain, and can help to obtain competitive advantage. Can help to obtain competitive advantage. Can help to obtain competitive advantage. Then threshold competences, these are also helpful to meet only the minimum requirement of the customers. Core competencies, they are difficult to imitate or impossible to obtain, and can provide a competitive advantage. So, normally these unique resources and core competencies can provide a competitive advantage for the organization. session. These two normally we can identify as strategic capabilities, which provide competitive advantage for the organizations. Right. So, examiner, so when you look at about the answer, so you talk about the theory first. Unique resource and core competencies can jointly be referred to as strategic capabilities. They are important for creating and sustaining a competitive advantage. If the competitive advantage is to be based on unique resources and core competencies, it must have 4 qualities. These 4 qualities are sometimes identified by the vectors WIN. They should meet these criteria. The theory part is giving value, rarity, inimitability, non-substitutability. Then you try to identify competencies given in the scenario. What are the scenario we can identify? Workforce currently employee over 200, there is one, right. So, in the scenario it was there were 200 employees, yes, there are over 200 employees, right. So, what about them? Are they valuable? Yes, they help to give satisfaction to the customers, but not rare. Why not rare? You can find similar employees and imitable and substitutable. So, since all 4 are not met, we can't identify them as strategic capability. So, this cannot be identified as strategic capability. To identify strategic capabilities, all 4 should be met. No, see, it clearly given. If the competitive advantage to be based on unique resource and core competence, it must have 4 qualities. You have to meet all these 4 qualities. Then the company under new ownerships, valuable, rare, not imitable and not substitutable. Yes. So, this can be identified as a strategic capability. The new ownership we can identify as a strategic capability. Then the knowledge and experience of new CEO, we identify new CEO in the organizations, is having good knowledge, right. So, more information was given about this new CEO, is having some practical exposure also, masters in sales and producing biological polythene product. You may not find similar guys in the industry, then he is having international exposure. What about him in this analysis? Is valuable? Yes, is valuable, rare, they are not limitable and not substitutable. So, this can be identified as a strategic capability. We can identify it as a strategic capability. Then free consultancy of the industrial development board. It was given that they are ready to give a free consultancy. Yes, the industrial development board has given its consultant free of charge considering the contribution of the new business in the country. So, valuable, rare, but can be imitated and substitutes. Yes, others also can get the same. No, so this cannot be identified as a strategic capability. Then availability of raw material, valuable but not rare, it is imitable and substitutable. So, this cannot be identified as a strategic capability. Then how many strategic capabilities? There are 2, no. The company under new ownerships, then the knowledge and experience of the new CEO, we identify as a strategic capability. What about the mark allocations? Identify WIN framework carries 1 mark and evaluating at least 4 competencies carried 4 marks. For the theory part, 1 mark has been given. For the evaluation, the balance 4 mark has been allocated. Right. Then what about the part 4? In the questions, select 2 support activities in Fortis value chain and justify how these activities could help adapter plastic to improve the profitability of the new business. Select 2 support activities in the Fortis value chain and justify how these activities could help adapter plastic to improve the profitability of the new business. Now, it tests your knowledge on the value chain, again another tool tested from the internal analysis, chapter number 3. So, value chains, what are the theory part we have discussed related to the value chain. So, what was identified as value chain? Activities in an organization that add value to purchase input of material. So, in other words, what is value chain? Value chain describe value creating activities within an organization. So, Porter has identified two main activities, if you remember, primary activities and support activities. What is primary activities? Activities directly related with creating, creating and delivering of a product or service we identify as primary activities. According to Porter, there are 5 primary activities: inbound logistic, operation, outbound logistic, marketing and sales services. Then what is support activities? Activities which support the primary activities we identify as support activities. According to Porter, there are 4 support activities: firm infrastructure, human resource management, technology development and procurement. So, examiner tests your knowledge on only the support activities, not only the not about the primary activities. We go to the questions. He is asking you to talk about the 2 support activities in the Porter's value change, and not only identify 2 value chain activities, you have to justify how these activities could help adapt class to improve profitability of the new business. So, there are 4 support activities. What are the 4 support activities? Procurement, technology development, human resource management, then firm infrastructure. Your question is based on this. What is procurement? Purchasing activity related to purchasing raw material and other activities from suppliers we call as procurement. Technology development, activity related to technologies. Then human resource management, activity related to recruiting, developing and retaining employees in the organizations. Firm infrastructure, activity related to planning, quality control, finance and structure, we identify as firm infrastructure. So, you have to apply this part to the given scenario. So, what are the activities we can talk? One example is human resource management, we can easily talk on that. Human resource management, here there are 200 employees or 200 employees. So, what you can do, you can recruit the most talented employee into the organizations. Not only that, we can train these employees and develop them. There are some other activity, for example, compensation management. We can have good reward management system to keep these employees within the organizations. Then firm infrastructure, there are some activities related to planning, quality control, we can talk on that also. Procurement also, we purchase some raw material, we can talk on that, we can ensure we buy the best raw material. So, we look at about the examiner answer also on this. So, first of all, he explained what is value chain, then he explained 2 sub activities, how these 2 sub activities can be used to get more value to the organization. First of all, we talk about human resource management. Business organization depend on the quality and skill of employee to achieve success. To ensure that the companies maintain and enhance competitive edge, the following factors regarding human resource need to be ensured. Attract the best technical and managerial staff to the company over their rivals. You have to get the best employees. Then you have to give the proper training and development. Employees are provided with proper training and development to enhance their skill in manufacturing and marketing functions. The pay and reward system is sufficiently attractive so that the company can attract them over its competitors. Then implement system to keep the workforce motivated with proper staff welfare and grievance handling procedures. Then maintain a safe and healthy environment, protect employee from accident and other health issues. That's also one of the issues we identify now. There should be focused on improvement in safe and healthy environment. The technology development. So, he explained what is technology development. Technology development involves the adoption of technology such as IT system or new product development to support the primary activities. Therefore, adaptive management can create value through new technologies in the following manner: introduce new technology to manufacturing plant to improve productivity, employees' health and quality of products, introduce an ERP system to integrate all the business functions, adopt modern technology to reduce the administrative cost and increase the efficiency of the operational process. Some of the examples are given. What you can do, you can introduce some new technologies to manufacturing plant to improve productivity, improve health and quality of products. Then you can introduce ERP system to integrate all the business functions. It was mentioned that no, it is not integrated properly, somewhere as it was stated. Yes, it was mentioned somewhere else. You can use this ERP to connect this. Right. Then next, adopt modern technology to reduce the administrative cost and increase the efficiency of the operational process. You can use new technology to reduce the cost. Yes, talk about the other two also. Procurement. He explained what is procurement. It consists of the procurement of material and other item from suppliers. Therefore, adapter can get the material at the right time at the right cost and quality required by using appropriate procurement procedures. Podo adapter can create value in the following ways: increase the quality of output, reduce the wastage, protect the machinery and equipment, improve the efficiency of administrations. Some examples are given, right. Then firm infrastructure, adapter can improve the value of its business by using appropriate finance, quality control, administrative system based on firm infrastructure, as it is important for strategic capability in all primary activities. Therefore, adapter may create the value in the following ways: develop a competitive advantage and achieve long-term success, maintain proper internal control mechanism, formalize the organization activities, increase employee satisfaction through effective administration process. Then what is the next part in the questions? Part 5, analyze the competitiveness of the biodegradable plastic industry in Sri Lanka by using Fortis 5 forces model with the purpose of developing strategies for the new business of adaptive plastics. You have to analyze this industry by using the Porter's 5 forces. Theory part, for what purpose you use 5 forces model? You remember, to analyze the industry, use the 5 forces model, right. So, 5 forces model determine the industry attractiveness. According to this model, there are 5 factors that determine the industry attractiveness together. What are the 5 factors? Threat of new entrants, bargaining power of suppliers, bargaining power of customers, threat of substitutes, industry competitors, right. These are the 5 factors given, right. So, threat of new entrants, it depends on the barriers to entry. If there are so many barriers to entry, then threat of new entrants is low, but if the barriers to entry is low, then threat of new entrants is high. Then bargaining power of suppliers, If for example, few suppliers are available in industry, then their bargaining power is high. If there are so many suppliers, then their bargaining power is low. Then bargaining power of customers, if customers have so many options to buy, then their bargaining power will be high. In this case, for example, it was clearly mentioned that there are so many players in the industry. There are domestic and at the same time there are some international players. This important one, actually important one, it was mentioned at the beginning. It's here, see, it pays severe competition from both local plastic manufacturers and imported plastic product. So we can assume that the customer's bargaining power is very high since they have so many options here. The rate of substitutes, this is high when there are readily available substitutes. If there are so many substitutes available, then threat coming from that will be high. Then industry competitors, this refers to the strength of the rivalry and competition between existing companies in the market. Here it was stated that there are so many competitors in the industry, so that is not a favorable situations, right. So that can be identified as a unfavorable situation to the organizations, right. So I will look at about the 5 forces analysis also. So he is talking about what is 5 forces at the beginning. There are no strong players in the market and some local competitors are trying to establish themselves in the market. Therefore, rivalry among the existing competitors in the market is low. Do we agree? Can we agree with that point? Regarding the rivalry. So what it say? Even though the company is maintaining a significant share in the domestic market, so we have a high market share, no. So the examiner has made a conclusion that rivalry among the existing companies is low, even though there are so many players. The reason is actually one company is having a significant market share. Now, based on that, examiner has made that particular conclusions, right. There are no strong players in the market and some local competitors are trying to establish themselves in the market. Therefore, rivalry among the existing competitors in the market is low. Then what about threat of new entrants? Biodegradable plastic industry has many barriers to entry, especially high investment and technology. Therefore, it is impossible for most of the small players to enter the market by introducing local products or importing product in small quantities. Hence, the threat of new entrants is low. Do you agree with that? Yes, we can assume a huge investment is required to enter into these particular markets, and that will act as a barriers to entry. Then threat of substitutes, according to the given detail, there are many low cost plastic product available. It was mentioned, even though they damage the environment, customer can use them as substitute. Therefore, threat of substitute is high. Then bargaining power of buyers have high bargaining power because they have the opportunity to select a suitable product from the wide range of brand available in the markets. We found the same facts. There are so many local and imported product available. Therefore, customers have so many options. Their bargaining power is high. Then bargaining power of suppliers in this industry, source material are readily available in recycling plant. Therefore, supply cannot have a big influence on manufacturers. Hence, the bargaining power of supply is relatively low. So, since they have so many options to buy, bargaining power of the supply is low. Right. So, with that we can complete the question number 1 and we can move to the question number 2. So, another case study questions which carry 25 marks. How many parts in the question? 6, no? First one, how many parts? There are only 5 parts, no? There are only 5 parts, but here there are 6 parts in the questions. So, we will go through the facts given. Kaufland is a supermarket chain with 320 outlets across Sri Lanka. Kaufland, they are going to talk about the supermarket. This Kaufland is a supermarket chain with 320 outlets across Sri Lanka. How many outlets they have? 320 outlets. Out of the 320 stores, 25 of them are mega shops. Mega mean big one. 25 of them are mega shops, which are large supermarkets located in the key metropolitan areas of Sri Lanka, such as Colombo, Gampaha, Kalutara and Kandy. There are some large supermarkets which are located in Colombo, Gampaha, Kalutara and Kandy. Almost 40% of the overall company sales are generated by these mega shops. Look at this, 25 outlet provide 40% of the sales. That means less than 10% of the outlet create 40% of the total sales income. During the last few years, the company's main strategic direction was expanding the supermarket network in urban areas to absorb market growth of the modern trade sector. According to a recent market survey done by an independent research agency, the modern trade sector has a 24% share of total retail volume with a 22% annual growth. What about the future possibilities? According to a recent market survey done by an independent research agency, the modern trade sector has a 24% share of total retail volume with a 24% annual growth. Then, however, last year the company experienced a drastic reduction in its overall profit due to the increased supply chain cost. What has happened? Our cost has been increased because of the increased supply chain costs coupled with reduced sales due to the economic slowdown in the country. Most of the newly established outlets have not reached even a break-even level during the first year. Further, some independent marketing analysis emphasize that even though few companies of the modern trade sector is expanding their network rapidly to absorb new customers to their outlet, the prevailing market growth rate is not sufficient to maintain a sufficient customer base to the newly established supermarket outlet in most of the metropolitan. So, new outlets are struggling, they can't even reach break-even point, right? So, because the growth is not sufficient. Apart from the prevailing conditions, the company faced a big crisis during March and April 2020. We all faced that one, right? Due to the nationwide curfew imposed by the government to combat the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic, as the total cases of infection in the country was reaching high numbers. During this period, the strategic team of Kaufland initiated an online order delivery system, delivering orders to the customers' doorsteps. They introduced this online order delivery system. An online ordering app was also introduced and became popular among the customers within a short time. That online app was very popular. Therefore, the BOD has decided to invest more money in online retailing and introduce many automated systems within the retail outlet to maintain social distance among customers and increase operational efficiency. So, with the new system, the company is planned to shut down some non-profit making outlet and reduce operational costs. What is this new systems? BOD has decided to invest more money in online retailing and introduce many automated systems. Now, we are more focusing on the online business. So, with this online business, they try to shut down some non-profit making outlet and reduce the operational cost. Further, the company is planning to allow work from home policies for some back office employees who engage in online operation as well. They plan to introduce work from home for some back office employees who engage in online operations. However, the main challenge faced by the company is how to manage the new transportation of internal operations and adapting to the new technology such as big data and cloud computing. I examiner want to test something from big data and cloud computing. Therefore, he has used one sentence in there. adapting the new technology such as big data and cloud computing to increase the productivity of online retail operations. At the same time, the BOD is planning to expand the supermarket chain with new technology application to a few countries of the South Asian region after the COVID-19 crisis is controls. They want to expand this to some South Asian region countries. They are planning to initially approach the Bangladesh market as the first international market for the company. They plan to enter to the Bangladesh market first. Right. Part 1, or the requirement of the part 1. Assuming that the chairman of Kaufland has advised the change the prevailing operation process to technology based operation, discuss the application of Levin's 3-stage model for the proposed changing process. Now, we have a traditional outlet, physical outlet. Now, they want to go to this online one. How can you apply the 3-stage model of the Levin's in the proposed changing process? This is tested from the chapter number 13, further aspects in human resource management. Do you remember 3-stage model of Levin? So, before looking about the questions, we look at about theory part bit. Change and change management. Business organization operate in a rapidly changing environment and marketplace. To remain successful, they must adapt by responding to the changes and taking advantage of any strategic opportunities that may arise. When major changes are required, they will open by strong resistance from employees and the existing culture of the organizations. Levis identified 3-step model for change. So, examiner test this Levis 3-stage model. I am sure you remember the models. If I remind you some of the things. So, Levin's 3-stage model: unpraise, repraise, change or movement, then the repraise. So, it consists of 3 stages, no? So, we start from the unpraise. We have organized structure which have been doing the activities in the same manner for so many years. So, under the unpraise, what we try to do? We are trying to melt in down our existing one. Here, we try to apply 2 strategies. One is to motivate some parties who favor to the change. We call them as motivator factors. Driving forces, we call them as driving forces. So, we try to encourage driving forces more. Then there are some parties who discourage the change exercise. We have to weaken that is called restraining causes. Then in the second stage, what we are trying to do, we try to induce the real change, right. So, there may be some problem you are going to face. It is very important to have proper communications to the employee at this particular stage. This replace mean you introduce this new one, now you want to make it permanent and concrete one. So, for example, you can introduce reward system, the employees can encourage to adhere with the new system, and who adhere with that one can be given rewards. So, this is the model we discuss, right. So, look at this the theory part in details. Unpraise, the process of finding a way to get people to end their resistance to change. This is achieved by finding ways to strengthen the driving forces for change or to weaken the restraining forces that resist change, or a combination of the two. You can use both together. Then movement, making the change, to include not just making the changes, operation activities, but making changes to thought, feeling and behaviors of the people affected. Reprise, establish the change as a new mindset. So, this is not a difficult one, because theory should be included in your answer. We look at about the examiner's answer, what he is telling. So, Kurt Lewin, a psychologist, developed a model for change management in the 1940s. He suggested that successful change can be done using a 3-stage process. Therefore, the chairman of Kaufland can manage the change process in 3 stages as given below. Unpraised, this is the process of finding a way to get people, both individual and group, to end their resistance to change. This is achieved by finding way to strengthen the driving forces for change or to weaken the restraining process that resists change. Therefore, the chairman should explain the benefit of change, pointing out the negative consequence of not changing and make staff understand the need for change. That is the application part, right. So, chairman can explain what are the benefit of change, and he can point out the negative consequence of not changing and make staff understand the need for change. Then movement, that the real introduction of the change. This stage involves making the change. It includes not just making the changes to operation activity, but making changes to the thought, feeling and behaviors of the people affected. This could be done by giving clear instructions to staff about the new patterns of behavior and providing training in the new online procedures. Clear communication is necessary so that staff understand what need to be done and the advantage of work from home concept for them and the organization. Employee should be given the clear instruction about the new behavior, and they should be given the training how to work in these online platforms. The reprise, after the change has occurred, there may be a tendency for people to revert to old ways after a while and for the changes to become lost and forgotten. If employee have any problem, the management must quickly sort them out so that the staff is encouraged to follow the new system. You are trying to make the change permanent here. The organization should provide additional reward from the new expansion of online business to encourage staff to follow the new procedures. Part 2 and 3 are connected to each other. What is part 2? Recommend 3 critical success factors that would be important to Kaufland when developing the plan for the first 5 years of online retail operation in Sri Lanka. So, you discuss these critical success factors under the internal analysis. So, the KPI, sorry, not the internal analysis, you discuss this critical success factor under this chapter number 5. So, under this SWOT analysis, after the SWOT analysis, you discuss this critical success factors. Then, part 3 outline 1 KPI for each of the above CSF, which would apply to online retail operation of Kaufland in the Sri Lankan market. This KPI was also covered under chapter number 5. These 2 are connected to each other. First, you have to suggest 3 critical success factors in relation to these 3 critical success factors under the part 3, you have to suggest KPI. Do you remember the theory part on this? Critical success factors and KPI is, what is critical success factors? Critical success factors are those actions that must be performed well in order for the goals and objectives established by an organization to be met successfully. The action that must be performed well. No? So, in other words, critical success factors normally provide the competitive advantage for the organizations. What Johnson scholars and Whittington tell about the CSF, those components of strategy where the organization must excel to outperform competitions. These are helpful to defeat competitors. These are underpinned by competencies which ensure this success. Normally, you use internal competencies to meet the external critical success factors. Then look at about critical KPIs also. What is KPI? An important measure of a critically important aspect of performance for which a target is set and actual performance is measured. Here we try to identify some important aspect of the performance. In relation to that, we set a target, then actual performance is measured. There should be a key performance indicator for every CSF. This is connect with the CSF. For every CSF, there can be a KPI. Purpose of KPI is to enable management to measure and control progress in each of the CSF. We can measure and control the CSF by using the KPIs. What are the relationship between these CSF and the KPIs? CSF are normally qualitative indicators, for example, customer satisfactions. KPIs are quantitative, for example, you measure the market share. Through that, you check whether customers are happy. Then CSF describes causes for success. KPI are the effect of success. Right. So we'll look at about the two questions 3 and 4 parallelly. 3, outline 1 KPI each of the above CSF which would apply to online retail operation of Kaufland in the Sri Lankan market. What are the CSF we can identify in relation to this retail business, retail operation of Kaufland? It's a supermarket. In a supermarket, what are the critical success factors? I think, so when you are selecting supermarket, what are the factors you are going to look at? Are you going to look at about the brand name? Yes, that will be one of the important factor. Right. Brand awareness and the preference, right. So that will be one of the important factor. Anything else? What about the quality of the products? That's another factor you will look at about. Quality, right. Any other factor you can consider? Then efficiency of the operations. When you go to supermarket, within how many minutes you can complete your transactions. Then so availability of items, how many items are available, whether you can cover all your requirements in the supermarkets. Then the time availability, whether the supermarket is available in 365 days, in 24 hours, for example online one. These may be some of the example. So we will look at about what examiner tell about this. So critical success factors are those actions that must be performed well for the goals and objectives established by an organization to be met successfully. By using CSF, organization can excel to outperform competitors. These are underpinned by competencies such ensure this success. That is the theory part, no? Then when considering the present scenario of Kaufland, it is observed that most of the customers are willing to do online shopping with the government and authorities, promoting social distance. Further, people have less fear of doing online transaction. Therefore, the following CSF are the most relevant factors of success in the Sri Lankan market. What are the factors examiner has identified? Brand awareness and preference. In the retail market, most of the customers like to maintain strong brand loyalty to supermarket. Therefore, Kaufland should develop brand awareness about its online delivery system and create brand preference through unique brand personality to success in the market. We also identify the same fact, no? The second one, pursue service quality. As retailing is a service, most customers expect high service quality such as reliability, assurance, responsiveness, empathy as well as tangible from online retail shop. Further, in the case of order taking and order delivering, employee should provide excellent customer service. That is another indicator. Cost of service, that's an important factor. Now you want to buy the product at low price. As per capita income in Sri Lanka is relatively low. Customers are highly concerned about the price of online orders compared to offline shoppings. Security, most customers may have bad feeling about online payment. Therefore, the company should maintain a special security system to protect the customers from hackers. Yes, when you are doing online purchasing, no, security will be a key point. the delivery speed and conditions. Most buyers need to have their orders delivered quickly after making the online purchase with respective conditions. Therefore, the company should take action to maintain effective courier service. Yes, you want to get the product within quick period. Then what is the part 3? Right. Outline one KPI for each of the above CSF which would apply to online retail operation of Kaufland in the Sri Lankan markets. Right. Here key important information is online one. No? So, you should not miss out that one. Online one, right. So, we will look at about KPIs for the online supermarkets. So, KPI set to achieve the objective of the organization have to be smart, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic and time bound. Following are some of the KPI Kaufland can set to measure the achievement of the organization in connection with different CSF. Brand awareness and preference, what you can do, you can set a KPI on this. For example, increasing brand awareness by 90% and brand preference by 50% during the first 5 years. That's an example, right? You can provide the different one, no matter. Right. Then pursue service quality, maintaining customer satisfaction more than 90% for overall services provided by Kaufland during the first 5 years. Right. At least 90% people should be happy about the service provided. Then cost of services, reduce cost by 20% over offline shopping and save more than 40% of customer time during the first 5 years. Right. Normally you can you want to save the customer cost. For example, traveling cost can be reduced. No, you expect to save 20% of their cost, and you want to save their time also by 40%. Then security, maintaining zero online payment errors, so network hacking during the first 5 years. So you don't want to have these errors no in online. You want to maintain zero online payment errors, so network hacking during the first 5 years. Delivering speed and conditions, completing the delivery within 4 hours of the online purchase with expected condition during the first 5 years. You want to deliver the order within 4 hours. 3 mark is given for recommending 3 appropriate KPI relevant to identify CSF. Right. Then part 4, recommend appropriate B2B model for e-commerce for the new online retail business of Kaufland with justifications. Right, this tests your knowledge on technology. I recommend appropriate B2C model for e-commerce for the new online retail business of Kaufland with justifications. Do you remember the theory part? How many B2C model we have identified? There are 5 model we identified: advertising model, intermediary model, merchant model, manufacturer model, then subscription model. But advertising model, in their business organization does not charge from the consumers, but they get the revenue from the advertising advertisement publishing. For example, Google, Facebook, you are not paying, but they earn from the advertisement. Intermediate model, that is the next one. So there are some organizations, they collect data about consumers and their purchasing habit and sell this information to other business. Through that they earn money. Then merchant model, වෙලෙන්දා කියන එකනේ. එයා කරන්නේ මොකද? What they are doing? They sell the product of others, right? Manufacturer model, then manufacturer directly sell product to the customers through their website. Then subscription model, then users want to pay to get the service online. For example, some of the online newspapers and specialist journals. So what is the appropriate model for the given scenario? Now supermarket, online one, right? They sell others product and deliver to the customer's place. What will be the appropriate model? Is it manufacturer model? Are they manufacturing goods? No. What is the model? So it should be a merchant model. So we will check whether examiner is having the same opinion regarding this. E-commerce business model take different form. Businesses that consider moving into e-commerce need to consider the model that they will use, the market that they will target, the profit potential, and whether they have any competitive advantage that will enable them to succeed. There are several different type of B2C model for e-commerce given below. 5 is given. When consider scope and application of the respective model in the merchant model, is also identified the same. Now, in the merchant model, companies use the internet to sell their goods and services. Customers are able to order the item online and also pay for it online. The purchase item is a physical product. The company must then arrange for the distribution of the product to the customer's address. Here, they have to arrange that. Therefore, the recommended B2C model for e-commerce is Kaufland is merchant model. Right. With that, we will go to the part 5 of the questions. Determine 5 broad ways in which big data can create value for the overall retail operation of Kaufland. It's a theory, 4 marks. He is going to test your theory knowledge, no application at all. So, big data were covered under what topic? It was covered under technology topics. So, we will look at about theory part first. So, value of big data. So, it provide values in different way. First one is transparency, making data more easily accessible to relevant stakeholders in a timely manner. Can create value in its own right. Then performance improvement, that the second one, the increasing of transactional data when stored in digital form provide the organization with an increasing amount of accurate and detailed performance data. Third one, market segmentation and customizations, you can identify specific segment from the data available. Then decision making, right, you can make some decisions by identifying some patterns and trends in data. Then you can introduce new product and services. These are the advantage you can get. So, you have to directly write these 5 advantage, very simple, right. So, look at the answer. So, examiner is talking about the theory part. First one, creating transparency. See this last sentence, that the application part, just write one sentence to talk about the applications. Therefore, Kaufland can analyze all its customers and other stakeholder need by using big data. The other part is a theory. Then performance improvement, look at the last sentence. According to Kaufland can monitor the fast moving and slow moving item and divert resource into more popular product lines. Then market segmentation customizations, the volume and variety within the big data enable organization to create highly specific segment within its market and to tailor its product and service precisely to meet the needs of customers in those segments. Then decision making, the sophisticated analytical tool which are used to uncover previously hidden patterns and trend in data could also be used to improve decision making. Only Kaufland can identify trend of in-store and online sales for a retailer in real time, which could be used to determine inventory and pricing strategies. New product and services, company can use data on social trend and consumer behavior to create new product and services to meet customer need or to enhance existing product and services so that they meet customer need more exactly. Accordingly, Kaufland can introduce new product based on the emerging demand of customers. Then we can move to the part 6 of the questions, the last part. Assuming that the BOD has decided to approach the Bangladesh retail market by 2021, that was given, no? Justify the applicability of the CAGE framework for designing strategies in the international market. Now, you want to test your knowledge in this international trade also, that is your last chapter, chapter number 15. Do you remember CAGE framework? So, we look at about theory part on cage framework. I'll look at the theory part, cage framework. Before any organization can successfully undertake expansion into a new country, it need to consider the differences between its home market and the target countries and take those differences into account when designing its strategy. So, under this cage framework, we look at about the difference between its home market and the target countries. The cage framework identifies a range of issues that an organization need to address when approaching the subject of international expansion into a specific country. Because this cage framework, there are 4 CAG, right? What is C? Cultural. So, in there we look at about social difference between 2 countries. What about Sri Lanka and Bangladesh? These 2 countries are given, Sri Lanka is more Buddhist based country, Bangladesh, you can find more Muslim people. Administrative, what is administrative? Consider legal and political differences, law and regulations. Normally we can't expect more differences. You can apply, for example, there may be some Sharia rules, but except that I think other rules are similar. Then geographic, what is this geographic? Address physical aspect of distance between 2 countries. What about Sri Lanka and Bangladesh? Is there any long distance? No, it's closer. Economic, different related to income, purchasing power and disposable income. I think Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka is having a higher per capita income compared with Bangladesh. Bangladesh is normally having a low per capita income. So, we look at about what examiner tell on this also. So, he talk about the theory first, then he is trying to apply this one to each variable. Cultural distance, what examiner tell on this cultural distance. This look at the social difference that exist between the 2 countries. According to the cultural values and norms of the Muslim culture, Bangladesh should be considered compared to the mainly Buddhist culture prevailing in Sri Lanka. So, examiner is identify the same point. So, Bangladesh is more Muslim based culture, but Sri Lanka more Buddhist based culture. Administrative distance, this addresses the legal and political association between the 2 countries. As both countries are in South Asian region, most legal and political association of the 2 countries are the same. You can't find much differences. Geographic distance, this addresses the physical aspect of the distance between the 2 countries. It considers physical factors that will affect trade in the new territory, the distance between the countries, the nature of transportation and information, climatic condition and so on. In this aspect, we have less distance to Bangladesh compared to other potential countries. Economic distance, the 4th and last aspect of the cage framework talk about the differences between the countries related to income, the purchasing power of the target market, distribution of wealth and disposable income level. In this aspect, we are a bit different in purchasing power and there is a disparity of income distribution. This should be considered developing strategies in Bangladesh. Yes, Sri Lanka is having higher income, you may expect more disparity of income distribution also. So, with that we can complete our discussions. So, I try my best to complete my discussion within 4 hours. I hope I have done a good job for you, right. So, wish you all the best for the exam, right. Thank you very much.